The Boston summer was muggy, and Amy Collins had her apartment AC blasting while she worked. Her Mac screen displayed a new client's website design. Amy was building her rep as a freelance web designer. "Hey, my mom texted," Thomas called from the sofa. Amy automatically tensed up. Notes from her mother-in-law Patricia always brought drama. "What's she want?" Amy asked, still typing. Thomas glanced at his phone. "She's asking if we want to do dinner at hers next Sunday. She wants to celebrate your birthday." Amy took a deep breath. Patricia Collins seemed polite on the surface, but there was always something off about her words. After 3 years of marriage, Amy had never felt real kindness from her mother-in-law. "I'll go if you want," Amy said. Watching her husband's face, she could see how happy he really was. Thomas was sharp as a financial analyst, but with family, he was oddly oblivious, especially about his mom. "That's great. Mom's starting to accept you more," Thomas said, smiling. "She even said the other day, Amy's grown into a good wife." Amy smiled back, but inside she felt uneasy. Patricia never said nice things about her. Truth was, since the wedding, Patricia treated Amy like she'd stolen her son. "Vanessa coming too?" Amy asked about her sister-in-law. "Yeah. She's been crashing at Mom's lately," Thomas said casually. After college, Vanessa hopped between jobs that never stuck, then wound up back home. Amy couldn't ignore the ice in Vanessa's glare. Those eyes screamed jealousy. "Okay," Amy sighed. "Should we take anything?" "No, Mom said she's handling everything." "Oh, and she mentioned making something special for you." Thomas sounded pleased. Amy faked a smile. "Patricia's special gift last Christmas? A sweater 3 sizes too small. The Easter before that, a cake packed with nuts Amy couldn't eat. All things Patricia would just wave away with, 'I didn't realize.'" Later, as Amy cooked dinner, Thomas slipped up behind her and wrapped his arms around her. "What's on your mind?" he asked gently. "My mom," she said honestly, and Thomas's expression darkened. "Are we really doing this again?" "Amy, Mom just wants to get along with you." Amy held back her response. They'd had this same conversation so many times. Thomas never really saw past his mother's words and actions. To him, Patricia was perfect. If there was a problem, it had to be Amy's fault. "I'm sorry," Amy sighed. "I'm just exhausted." Thomas kissed her to show he forgave her, but a flicker of irritation lingered in his eyes. These past 3 years, the tension between Amy and Thomas had been building. Back when they first got married, Thomas shielded Amy from his mom and sister's constant meddling. But little by little, he got sucked back into his family's orbit. Come the weekend, Amy met up with her friend Jessica at a coffee shop while Thomas was out golfing with his pals. "Off to your mother-in-law's again," Jessica blurted, raising an eyebrow. "Didn't she complain last time about your cooking being too salty? Said she was worried about Thomas's health." Amy gave a tight smile. "Yeah. But I know how much his mom means to him. Family means everything to him. Aren't you part of his family?" Jessica frowned. "Thomas stays quiet when Patricia and Vanessa treat you badly." Amy swirled her coffee absently. "He doesn't get it. In his eyes, his mother's flawless." Jessica grabbed her friend's hand. "Be careful. I don't think Patricia actually likes you." Amy nodded. She felt the same. Each visit, she caught Patricia's quiet sarcasm and Vanessa's cold glares. But she loved Thomas, so she toughed it out for him. The evening before her birthday, Thomas kissed Amy and whispered, "Tomorrow's gonna be perfect." In bed, Amy hoped he was right. Yet part of her knew. Tomorrow's visit would just bring more tension. When she closed her eyes, Patricia's plastic grin and the truth behind it flashed in her mind. Years of tiny jabs and deliberate snubs had left Amy permanently on edge. Her birthday dawned under a spotless blue sky. Making breakfast when the intercom went off. "Package for you. Needs refrigeration." Amy took the box from the delivery guy. She saw Patricia Collins listed as the sender. The surprise gift threw her off. "Thomas, your mom mailed us something." Thomas walked out of the bathroom, rubbing his hair with a towel, and stared at the box. "Bet it's for your birthday. Wanna open it?" Amy carefully opened the package. Inside lay an elegant black box with Chateau Chocolatier in gold script. "It's Boston's most luxurious chocolate shop." "Wow, Mom's splurging. These cost over $100 a box," Thomas remarked, impressed. The box held beautifully arranged chocolates of various shapes, plus a small attached card. Amy picked it up and read, "Specially chosen for you." The writing was Patricia's precise handwriting. "See," Thomas said cheerfully. "Mom finally warmed up to you. Sending fancy chocolates like these." Amy forced a smile but felt uneasy inside. She couldn't wrap her head around Patricia's sudden change. But seeing Thomas so thrilled, she bit back her suspicions. "That's really kind. I'll have them another time." All day, Amy drowned herself in web design projects. By evening, Thomas came home early and camped in the kitchen, cooking up a birthday feast. Amy flopped onto the sofa, shaking off the day's exhaustion. "Food's ready," Thomas called out. They had a nice, relaxed dinner. Thomas poured some wine and raised a glass for Amy's birthday. "Happy birthday, love. I'll always be here." After dinner, while cleaning the kitchen, Thomas noticed the chocolate box. "How about something sweet?" He opened it and took one out. "Looks yummy." Amy was exhausted. "I'm pretty full right now. I'll save some for tomorrow." "Just one can't hurt, right?" Thomas already popped the chocolate in his mouth. "Wow, this tastes amazing." Amy smiled and said, "I can't wait to try them tomorrow." "Just one more." Thomas grabbed another. Amy didn't care and headed for a shower. Worn out, Amy hit the sack early and dozed off fast. Thomas was glued to the TV in the living room, absent-mindedly munching chocolates one after another. Next morning, Amy found Thomas already awake when she got up. She entered the kitchen to see him nursing coffee while reading. "Morning, birthday girl. That ended last night," Amy laughed. "Guess I'll grab some chocolates now." In the living room, she discovered the empty box on the table. "Thomas, you ate the whole thing." He nodded sheepishly. "Sorry, they just disappeared before I noticed." They were so good. Amy felt a bit disappointed, but whatever. "No worries. Get me more some other time." Then the phone rang. It said Patricia Collins. "Your mom's calling," Amy answered. "Hey Patricia." "Good morning, Amy." Patricia sounded extra happy. "It was your birthday yesterday." "Awesome. Thanks a ton." The chocolates arrived. "Oh nice," Patricia said happily. "How'd the chocolates taste?" "I went with something special." Amy laughed while Thomas ate them all. There was a beat of silence. Then, Amy heard Patricia's voice waver. "Seriously?" That tone made Amy uneasy. Patricia's reaction seemed heavier than just surprise. "Yeah, he ate every last one last night. But he swore they were good." "Is he?" Patricia's voice came out scratchy. "That's wild." The call ended awkwardly, and right after Amy hung up, Thomas's phone rang. Thomas looked a little off but answered anyway. A couple minutes later, he came back to the living room. He looked pale with sweat pouring down his forehead. "Me. The hospital just called. I gotta go now, I feel awful." Before he could finish, Thomas bolted to the bathroom and started throwing up bad. His voice shaking, he gasped, "Call 911." Amy quickly dialed emergency services. Meanwhile, Thomas was getting worse fast. When she touched his forehead, it felt crazy hot. "You'll be okay, Thomas. The ambulance will be here soon." As the siren started wailing, Thomas's phone rang again. Amy saw Mom flash on the screen. She let it ring. A strange dread settled in her chest. The siren grew louder, and Amy left the door wide open. Paramedics hurried inside and checked Thomas collapsed in the bathroom. "Severe dehydration," one said. "He needs an 4 stat." "When did symptoms start?" "He looked a little pale when he woke up, but suddenly got way worse," Amy said with a shaky voice. "Last night he was fine." Then she remembered the chocolates from her mom-in-law. They loaded Thomas onto a stretcher, and Amy climbed into the ambulance. As the vehicle swayed, she held Thomas's hand tight. Beads of sweat formed on his forehead, and his face turned gray. "Hang in there, Thomas. We're almost at the hospital." When they reached the ER, doctors whisked Thomas away immediately. Amy stayed in the waiting room, filling out paperwork. Grabbing her phone, she saw 5 missed calls from Patricia. Just then, it rang again. "Hey, Patricia. It's Amy. Where's Thomas? Why isn't he answering?" Patricia's voice was nearly hysterical. "He's in the hospital. He suddenly got real sick." "Which hospital?" "I'm coming now." Amy told her the hospital and hung up. She felt something strange. Why was Patricia so panicked? And why right after the chocolate talk? 30 minutes later, Patricia and Vanessa reached the hospital. Both looked upset, especially Patricia, her face full of fear. "Where is he? Where's my son?" Patricia asked the receptionist. Amy stood up and went over to them. They're helping him. I'm waiting for the doctor to come out. When Patricia saw Amy, she flinched for a second. What happened? Why all of a sudden? I don't know. He was already feeling sick when he woke up, Amy said, pausing before adding, right after eating your chocolates. Patricia and Vanessa turned pale at that. They glanced at each other, and Vanessa bit her lip. Chocolates. Patricia dropped her voice. He ate every single one. Amy watched their reactions. Yep, all of them last night. He felt awful by morning. Just then, a doctor walked into the waiting room. Mrs. Collins. We've got the first test results for your husband. The three huddled around the doctor. He's got serious food poisoning symptoms. This reaction's way stronger than normal food poisoning, so we're doing more tests. Did he eat something strange? Amy remembered the empty chocolate box. He ate fancy chocolates last night. The box is at his place. The doctor frowned. Could you bring that packaging? We may need it for tests. I'll get it, Vanessa jumped in. Give me your apartment address. Amy, though wary, gave her the address. Vanessa bolted from the hospital. Doctor. Patricia turned to the doctor. Is my boy gonna be all right? We're pumping him with the antidote now, just in case. Tests picked up some toxin reaction. Toxin. Amy's voice shot up. What do you mean? The doctor chose his words carefully. We can't be sure yet. But judging by the symptoms and initial tests, we think this isn't normal food poisoning. Patricia sank into a chair. You're kidding. 2 hours later, Vanessa showed up. The chocolate box wasn't with her. I couldn't find it anywhere, she said. Probably got thrown out. Amy frowned. It should have been on the coffee table. Right then, a man saying he was a detective came into the hospital. Mrs. Collins, I've got some questions for you. Please. Patricia's voice trembled. What for? They found specific toxins in Thomas Collins' body. We need to check this out. Amy touched her cheek with an unsteady hand. Toxins. No chance. The detective kept taking notes and asking questions. Did you eat or drink anything weird recently? Last night, pricey chocolates came from my mother-in-law, and my husband devoured them all, Amy answered. The detective turned to Patricia. Where'd you get those chocolates? Patricia's face went pale. Chateau Chocolatier. But this is a mistake. Are there any leftover chocolates or packaging? Amy shook her head. My sister-in-law went to grab them, but she said they were missing. The detective turned to Vanessa. You seriously couldn't locate them? Vanessa fidgeted in her seat. Nope, they weren't anywhere. After studying them both, the detective said, just to be safe, we'll have to search the apartment. Amy nodded and passed him the keys. Then she went to the treatment room to see Thomas. He was lying there weakly, hooked up to an 4. Me. His lips were dry as he spoke. What's going on? We're not sure yet. But you'll be okay, don't stress. With the nurse keeping watch, Amy walked into the hallway. Just as she was heading to the bathroom, walking past a private room, she caught a quiet voice. Mom, the plan fell through. That was Vanessa talking. She might catch us, Patricia muttered under her breath. Amy froze, pressing herself flat against the wall. What happens now? If the cops dig around, there's nothing to find. You dumped the box, yeah. I did, but... Quiet. Play dumb if anyone asks. Thomas'll be fine. Wasn't enough to do real harm. Amy's chest went ice cold. She backed away from the spot and stumbled back to the waiting room. The terrible truth of what Patricia and Vanessa had tried hit her. When the detective returned to the hospital, his expression was grim. We pulled the chocolate box from the trash. It's at the lab now. Amy locked eyes with Patricia and Vanessa. Fear drained the color from their faces. We also located a second box that wasn't in your apartment dumpster. Ms. Vanessa Collins. It was in your car's trunk. Vanessa tried to push up from her seat, but another officer held her shoulder. Patricia Collins and Vanessa Collins, you're being detained for questioning regarding attempted murder. Amy froze in place. She couldn't process that her in-laws had tried to kill Thomas, or worse, might have been targeting her all along. Why? Her voice barely came out. Patricia glared at Amy, eyes like daggers. We'd never hand Thomas over to trash like you. He's our blood. The hospital corridor was icy. Amy slumped in a plastic chair, white-knuckling her coffee cup. Patricia and Vanessa had been gone with the cops for hours now. Thomas was out cold in intensive care, but the doctors said he'd stabilized. The scary part was probably over. Amy rubbed her tired eyes and replayed everything in her head. Since the wedding, she'd been having all these strange health problems. Constant headaches, sudden nausea, always worse after visiting her mother-in-law. She used to blame stress, but now, maybe something else was going on. Her phone lit up with Jessica's caller ID. Amy, you okay? Just saw the news about your husband, poisoning. What the hell happened? Amy filled Jessica in on the situation. Jessica worked at a law firm and was exactly the type of friend who stayed cool under pressure. What's the police saying? Jessica asked. They're questioning Patricia and Vanessa about attempted murder. Turns out there was arsenic in those chocolates. Jessica's sharp inhale was audible through the phone. Amy, this is serious. I'm on my way. Don't talk to anyone until I'm there. An hour later, Jessica showed up at the hospital. She sized up Amy's situation with her doctor's eye. Remember what happened before? Jessica asked quietly. Did Patricia ever hand you food or drinks? Like, only for you? Amy paused. Now that you ask. At our wedding party, she brought fancy wine and only filled my glass. Then I got crazy sick and missed the photos. And that Christmas she baked me special cookies, just mine. Ate 'em and was down for 3 days. I figured it was just food poisoning. Jessica was scribbling in her notebook. Anything else come to mind? Any other clues? Not really, but 2 weeks before Thomas ended up in the hospital, his work insurance changed. He said he'd gotten a better life insurance deal. Jessica's face went tense. Who's getting the payout? Me and Thomas's mom, I guess. He promised if anything happened we'd both be set. Jessica stood up. Amy, this was clearly planned out. You need to tell the police everything. That night, Amy told the detective all her hunches. The detective nodded along and promised, we'll check it out. A week later, Thomas was cleared to leave the hospital. He'd lost weight and still looked rough, but thanks to strong meds, he'd bounced back somehow. Amy took him home and quietly looked after him. Why would Mom do this? Thomas kept mumbling. He just couldn't accept the truth. Patricia and Vanessa got out on bail for now. They tried calling Thomas, but Amy blocked every call. Thomas's recovery was all she cared about. 3 days after leaving the hospital, Amy made her choice. She had to come clean with her husband. As Thomas lay on the couch, she sat next to him. Thomas, we need to go see your mom. He looked at her, shocked. Why? We need to find proof. You know this wasn't her first time, right? Thomas just looked away. I can't believe Mom would actually do this. Believe me, Amy grabbed her husband's hand. For our sake, we've got to know the truth. The next day, even though Thomas was still shaky, he agreed to go to Patricia's with Amy. They picked a time when Patricia and Vanessa would be at the lawyer's office getting ready for court. Thomas had a spare key. What are we searching for? Thomas asked as he stood by the door. Notice anything weird? Pay extra attention to your mom's bedroom and desk. They stepped inside quietly. Patricia's place, which they hadn't been to in ages, looked just as neat as usual. Amy headed upstairs from the living room toward Patricia's bedroom. Thomas trailed behind, though a bit reluctantly. This kinda feels like we're snooping through Mom's stuff. Thomas, your mom literally tried to murder me. Amy shot back, her tone icy. Patricia's room was stylishly set up, with family pictures lined up on the nightstand. Amy opened the closet and began checking the top shelves. She found nothing. Let's check the desk. Patricia's desk was locked, but Thomas forced the drawers open. Inside, various documents were neatly stacked. Amy skimmed through them and stopped at one file. It was a copy of Thomas's new life insurance policy. The beneficiaries were still Amy and Patricia, but there was a small mark beside Amy's name. A separate note read, to be changed. Digging deeper, they found another shocking document. It was Amy's own life insurance policy. Amy had no memory of Thomas getting this insurance, and the beneficiaries were Patricia and Vanessa. This is my life insurance. When did you sign up for this? Thomas looked at the document, face pale. I don't know. Mom said she'd take care of everything. Amy hid her face with trembling hands. They'd been planning this all along. Amy found a small box under the dresser. Inside were photos of her with needles stuck in them. There were also tiny labeled bottles filled with weird herbs and powders. Thomas, look at this. Amy powered up the laptop on the desk. It was locked, but Thomas tried his mom's go-to password, and it worked. The browser history had searches for undetectable poisons, slow poisoning tricks, and a complete life insurance fraud guide. Thomas sank into a chair and held his head. No way. Why would Mom? Suddenly the door clicked open. They spun around in shock. What are you up to? Vanessa was at the bedroom door. Seeing them, her face turned white. You've got no right in here. Amy said calmly. We're keeping all this as evidence. Proof you and your mother wanted me dead. Don't be crazy. Vanessa couldn't mask her nerves. There's nothing here. Thomas slowly rose up. Vanessa, why? Why would you and Mom do that? Vanessa's expression darkened. Why? Because everything shifted after you married her. Our plans, our future, gone. What do you mean? Vanessa laughed, but it was hollow. Her laugh carried both hurt and anger. Mom never meant to welcome you as family, not even from the start. She was after Thomas's place and your insurance money. Amy snatched the papers and shoved them at Thomas. Look at this. Your mom took out massive loans in your name. They were broke. Thomas froze. Then, his voice shaking with rage and pain, he growled. Get out, Vanessa. I never want to see you again. Thomas, you gotta choose. Her or us. People who tried to hurt my wife or family. Thomas's voice shook. Get out before I call the police. Amy stood by Thomas and held his hand. They silently stared at Vanessa. This isn't over, Vanessa said threateningly as she left. Just then Thomas's phone rang. He answered and after talking briefly, looked at Amy differently. Mom confessed everything. Golden autumn sunlight streamed down the courthouse marble steps. Amy and Thomas walked out hand in hand. The judge's final ruling had closed this grueling trial chapter. Patricia Collins got 5 years behind bars for assault and conspiracy. Planning poison attacks and putting Amy in danger multiple times was downright evil. Vanessa confessed to being an accomplice and scored 3 years probation. The court bought her lawyer's claim that her mom manipulated her. It's finally over, Amy said with a heavy sigh. Thomas pulled her tight against his side. Yeah, we can start fresh now. Thomas got in the car and headed for the suburbs. They'd picked a quiet Connecticut town to call home, far from Boston. Felt like the right place to start over. When they visited Patricia, she wasn't the same person. Her usual poise was gone. She sat alone, lost in her thoughts. She lit up when she saw Thomas, but his cold look cut her short. She muttered sorry to Amy, but her eyes showed no real remorse. Then Vanessa's apology letter came. I've got to live my own life, free from Mom's grip. Amy read it but never replied. Forgiveness will take time. Maybe she'd never forgive. When they reached their new home, they hauled in their things. The little but bright house felt like a new beginning. Now what? Thomas asked, sinking into the couch. Amy smiled and settled beside him. First, I'll figure out how to fix up this place. Then I'll get my web design company going. I need to land a new job too, Thomas said. He left his finance job in Boston and joined a small local company. The pay would be less, but he wanted a more relaxed work environment. That evening, Amy dropped some big news on Thomas. We're going to be a family of 3. Thomas's eyes lit up with happiness. Seriously? When? In 6 months. I checked with a test. He hugged his wife, thinking about that tiny life. Their future wouldn't be easy. Still, they'd fought through tough times to get here. Life with their new family would bring its own kind of joy. Amy held Thomas's hand in bed. I'm so glad I met you. Passing on those chocolates was the best decision I ever made. Thomas laughed quietly and kissed her forehead. Good thing I ate them all, we found the truth. Moonlight spilled into the room as they imagined their new life ahead. After all the hardship, quiet happiness was finally theirs.